Yes, so when we say medical oxygen, gaps in medical oxygen access, we're not just talking about the actual oxygen. We're talking about all the respiratory therapies that go with it, whether it's a CPAP or a BiPAP or a ventilator or a high flow, all the equipment is also missing. So access to medical oxygen is something that we in the coalition, and I believe the Global Oxygen Alliance shares this view, we look at the whole thing from the diagnostic tool, which is pulse oximetry, through to the source of oxygen, whether it's liquid, PSA, VSA plant, usually on site at the hospital, or the little mobile concentrators that are electric. They're the three sort of major sources. And then all the medical devices, if you like, that deliver that. So that's the whole landscape that we're looking at when we say increasing access to medical oxygen. So it encompasses everything, and we're active in everything. So when we say $1 billion of support was provided through the Global Oxygen Alliance members, that's not just for sources of oxygen. A lot of that is for actually ventilators, concentrators, pulse oximeters, nasal prongs, etc. And I think the Global Oxygen Response will continue to take that broad view, but Thomas can absolutely confirm that as Unitaid co-chairs that group. We're also asking ministries in their plans, their national oxygen plans. They are too expected to be all-encompassing. So it's the National Medical Oxygen System that is the language we use to encompass all of that. All the pieces need to be in place. There's no point having a source of medical oxygen if there's no ventilator or nasal prong or mask to get it to the patient. You need everything. On ventilators, though, I will say there was a lot of criticism during the pandemic at the massive distribution of very technical, sophisticated ventilators from Europe and the US that arrived in many countries and simply couldn't be used, either because there wasn't a source of oxygen or because the clinicians were not trained to intubate. That's a very, very risky procedure. You need a lot of training to do that properly. And we saw this happen when we looked at the death rates of the COVID patients that went on to ventilators in low resource settings. I won't give the number, it's tragic, just to say that most of the ventilated patients died. So after seeing that data come through, we pivoted, or the Global Oxygen Response pivoted, and a lot of people started to question the mass distribution of ventilators. So I think I just wanted to caveat that, because it's often you can do a lot more with basic oxygen support to actually prevent the need for people to go on ventilators, which have such a high risk.
Thank you, Leith. And Thomas,
I'm conscious of time, so I'll be brief. I fully agree with everything that Leith has said. Just wanted to mention that this comes back to what we said earlier about that whatever we put in place in terms of oxygen systems needs to be adapted to the conditions that are on the ground. So we need to make sure that we support countries, we support health facilities in assessing their own needs and finding out what works and what doesn't work in certain settings. So with the example of the ventilator specifically, this won't work if the health force is not trained in using them. So of course they are still needed, but it is much more, as Leith said, than just getting the ventilators to a country or to a health facility. It needs much more than just that.